live from the Real Guppy Dockside Learning and Multimedia Center. It's the Real Angler Podcast with Community Kevin Brannon, brought to you by AFTCO Fishing Apparel and Tackle, designed to perform. Channel Islands Sport Fishing, offering deep-sea fishing on quality sport fishing charter boats, and more. Costa Sunglasses. Discover life's greatest adventures with Costa. See what's out there. Daiwa. If you want innovation and quality in your fishing products, Daiwa has what you need. And now, here's your host, Community Kevin Brannon. Today's guest, Bill Matthews, Cornerman Coaching and the Active Recovery.
I remember back in the days when Scotty would pop up with Barry. Why don't you do that anymore? Is it because you don't have because of the microphone? Not enough mics. But you know what, Scotty? One of these days, so we have all this equipment in here, and one of these days it's going to be all up to date. Say we have four microphones over here.
Yeah.
We have the switchboard. Well, the internet here is so slow that it drags. So if you try to use StreamYard that we use as our platform, the internet's so slow. And the reason why is because we're out here in the dusty Channel Islands Harbor Fisherman's Wharf that hasn't been touched in like 2 decades. But
this
going to be under construction.
This is an interesting complex. I've always often wondered why this isn't just booming with crowds.
It was at one time, and that's kind of an interesting point as we get to our who our guest is and what it is today. Is that when they wanted to redevelop, people were like, "Well, what about the traffic?" It's like this place used to boom. It was built for traffic. You got abandoned parking lots that are fit for the crowd, and people are like, well, I remember when it used to look like this, and then you're like, well, what are we going to do with those people that come? So which one is it? It used to boom, and now they're just empty. It's already been created that way, and then so it can handle the it was built for when it was jamming and booming,
Yeah,
so,
I mean, there's a few cool places. I used to get my hair cut over by the donut shop for years, and then it moved, and then I've had seafood up. This place over here is freaking crazy, man. There's tons of seafood.
Yep. Yeah. So that's what's going to stay besides us. It's going to be us, the donut shop, and the seafood place, because a German company's coming into, or they already made it, the bid, they said by January next year, so about 11 months away, they should have the bulldozers knocking this place down. So we'll be in a little construction container kind of a thing.
Condos?
What's up? No. That's so Carl's Land's going to be like a mini Solvang.
Oh, wow.
But a German themed type,
cool.
right? But they want to keep the fish and chips place, the seafood place, so that way if you come to a fisherman's wharf and you can't get chowder and fried fish and chips, that doesn't work. So they're keeping that one too. So, and they're going to modify it and fix it up a little, modernize it a little bit. So good morning, everybody. Good afternoon, wherever you're listening at. It's me, Barry, and a good friend of mine, Bill Matthews. Bill Matthews, we're going to talk about Cornerman coaching and also active recovery. I met Bill. I met him at an AA meeting when I was starting to work on my sobriety and drinking. And somebody said, you got to talk to Bill. And from what I heard, I think Bill sponsors about like 30 people already. So I went over and talked to Bill, and he gave me his number, and then we met for coffee. This was like right before the pandemic, right? Like because then we stopped meeting at that, right? It happened because we met for coffee a couple times, and then the pandemic happened, and they weren't really doing the meetings on the Channel Islands, right?
It's been a few years for sure.
So anyway, Bill, but we're friends on Facebook. I mean, we're friends, right? I would call him, I put myself in trouble. I remember he told me like, Bill, I'm doing it again. And he's like, thanks for telling on yourself. But I've called him for other things, for guidance. And what he does between these things that we're going to talk about today is, again, guiding men and fellas, whether it's through your recovery, sobriety, mental health, but like through a mental toughness side that I talk a lot about. So watching his stories and watching the posts that he puts up, his memes, and then he's coming up on an ultra run too. So we're going to talk about how that outdoor and servant work and stuff like that. So it's going to be really cool. I'm gonna get to interviewing you before we go long-winded, because we're already talking off the air, and that's stuff that we need to talk about on there. So again, Bill Matthews is a good friend of mine, more like family. Was there when I needed him, and to get me started on sobriety. And you're our guest today. What's going on, Bill? What's going on?
What's happening, man? I'm happy to be here to see your place. I've watched your growth and your mission and what you do for the kids, and much respect.
Thank you,
know
man.
what I mean? Because I know a bit of where you came from, and it has shaped and molded you into a beautiful man, dude.
Thank you, man. Appreciate that. Yeah, you did. And you got me at a time of transformation, right? So growth and I'll tell you why, how I got to my AA meeting. I had just got that award, the one that's right behind these bins, from the from the county of Ventura, the proclamation. And and then you see the award over there. Actually, it fell. Where is it at? The one from the parade that we had, the Christmas parade, and we got first place in the Christmas parade. And I got so wasted and embarrassed myself and did some things I'm not happy about and shameful. And the next day, and I was first place, right? So you should be on a high. So let me celebrate. Let's throw a celebration in the name of the team. Well, celebrating for me, I get a little blackout drunk. So then Monday, I get this proclamation. So Sunday, I wake up feeling full of shame. Monday, I'm going in there and I still party the next day because, that's what you do, right? You just act like nothing happened and try to submerge what you did the day before. And I went in there to get this award, man. And I went into the bathroom and I prayed for like 15 minutes. God, if you just get me through this 15 minutes, And then, Mike Stiles, right? And he had just posted about being at an AA meeting and like 12 years of sobriety. And then my cousin, Kenny Allison, he had just posted and my brother quit drinking. So it was like already in my forefront of men that had some, that have fought some of their demons off. Right. So anyway, I got this award too, man. And I remember leaning on the panel, leaning up on the, where they call you up and introduce you and talk to a microphone, barely get the words out. Down there wanted to cry. And that night, bro, I was at an AA meeting because I didn't feel like here I am winning and I feel like I'm defeated. And then I met you about a month or two later, man.
Yeah, I will share in a general way, as Alcoholics Anonymous is an anonymous program. I'm not here to represent Alcoholics Anonymous, but I'm here to say I'm an active member in a
very active,
very active in recovery. And the 12 steps is how that happened for me. And I did not know I was an alcoholic until I went to my first meeting. Yeah. You know what I mean? Started partying when I was 11 years old, 1976, drank my first tall can of Schlitz malt liquor. And
I mean to laugh, but it's just
liquor. The Red Bull or the Blue Bull on the thing, and it was warm, and I had the experience you would expect. I got sick, but I wanted to do more of it.
Yeah.
That same year, I took a little piece of paper my brother gave me. He says, "Put this under your tongue," and I had no idea what it was going to do. But the next 11 years of my life was a trip. You know what I mean? And 11 years of absolutely getting in trouble and ended up in places that I never thought I would end up.
Yeah.
And one of them was rehab in 1988. So I've been sober since May 20th, 1988. And prior to that was madness. And today I live a life beyond my wildest dreams as a result of finding, recovery.
Do you think that as much work that you do, and this is what we talked a little bit about when we said church and AA, and you hear, and I was saying somebody make a joke, but I don't think it's a joke. They talk like servancy work, right? Like, and me with the kids that I work with, I need them as much as they need me. All those kids need you. When you're working with them and go back to the church thing, like it can be something as simple as being the person making the coffee because it feels like you got some type of purpose, something for you to show up every day, right? At 5 o'clock to do that. So do you think since, that you being so active in helping other people stay on the right path or get them guided, like really the purpose of that, keeps you dialed in?
Absolutely. Being involved. I always wanted to be part of something, and I always wanted people to have my back. No one had my back growing up. I just felt I was alone. Mm-hmm. And when you get part of a community like that and you play a significant part.
You sound like, just to jump in, that kind of sound in it with the kids we deal with when you join a street gang or you grow a clique or a crew, right?
Absolutely.
Like somebody, me being a foster kid, I'm trying to find that somebody that has my back, right? And that's what makes it bonds us so close together.
Yeah, I was involved in a few groups growing up too, little gangsters here and there, and you just wanted to be part of a tribe. We're tribal people. Yeah. We're not supposed to meant to be alone. Yeah. It just so happens in the neighborhood I was growing up in, the tribe I was connecting with, we weren't doing good things. You know what I mean?
Different kind of hunter-gatherer.
We were gathering stuff. Yeah, they were not, and it wasn't our stuff. We were gathering other people's stuff.
I don't mean to giggle. I just go ahead.
Yeah, no. I mean, that's my past, and I don't regret any of it. It shaped me. If my life would have been the way I wanted it to be, I wouldn't be the man I am today that I respect so much. Right. All of that shaped me and gave me now. I turned my mess into a message of hope for other men.
And I think that's one of the things that is so important is for hope. Again, this goes back, and I'm not going to go again. I'm not here to represent Christianity. But when I talk to people about what we're saying and try to bring that to the light of why people might not have a walk with the Lord is it's not that they don't know the Lord or anything. It's like you're trying to bring hope and faith to people that never had hope in their life. That's the first part, right? Showing somebody hope, it's not like, I hope the bills get paid this month. It's you know what I mean? Like that's what we used to hope for, right? I hope they don't turn the lights off,
Yeah, I was raised Mormon, My parents weren't Mormon. We bought a house from a group of people that were Mormons. Mm-hmm. And if anybody knows Mormons, they're really good at gathering people. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And we started going to church at an early age. And I realized that wasn't that wasn't for me. That wasn't the kind of, I didn't enjoy the message as much. Mm-hmm. So now today, I really help and encourage people to find, everybody inherently has a thought of a power greater than themselves. Mm-hmm. And I don't tell anybody what they have to believe. I just ask them to open the door of, is there a possibility if something else is running the show?
I think that's why when we talked about the nature thing and being outdoor, the active recovery is because, and especially with fishing, right, Scotty?
That's right.
Is that when that sun comes up in the morning, or you're at those Channel Islands, or you're out hiking, no matter, this is what I say, I don't care what God you believe in, you stop for a minute and know that there's that feeling, right? Like nature is one of those things that again, whatever side of religion or non or whatever, right? The higher, you feel that there's a spiritual higher connection, right?
Oh, absolutely. I've had, I'm in a different season of my life. You say I got sober in 1988. I was 21 years old, mm-hmm. And getting sober. And for 19 years, sober was great. And I chased the American dream, and I had the car, the beautiful wife. I've been married for 32 years, got kids, had money, had everything I wanted to. But what I had lost was the connection with myself. I was 222 pounds. I was in the worst physical shape of my life. Embarrassed to take off my shirt. I lost any ability to be active. And I grew up as an athlete. And that's when I found the sport of running, mm-hmm. Getting outside in this connection. And it has transformed my life in so many other ways.
And I think that's because even though you're the fulfillment of like helping and being a servant, when you're one-on-one with you, there's another accomplishment that comes with that, So as you go your first mile to your second mile, pushing yourself to certain types of limits when we talk about your ultra run and what you're doing. So you have this servancy part, right? Of through AA of servicing and sponsoring, right? And then, but that's a certain fulfillment. But then there's your independent fulfillment that we all need to have as well, right? And I think in yours being running, but individually, whatever that individual's other purpose or something that brings them gratification, right? That's not just, let me just go out and do everything for everybody else, but something that we do for ourselves, right?
It is, running is definitely an individual sport. However, I've also found a tribe of people ultra running, the tribe of ultra runners, because I don't run on the street, I run in mountains, right?
You don't run the streets no more, hear that?
Yeah. The cool thing about ultra running, mm-hmm. So an ultra marathon is anything over a marathon, right? So what I enjoy most about what I do is I am intentionally putting myself in a physical and mental dark spot on purpose. Mm-hmm. You go run 100-mile foot race, it's going to get dark physically and it's going to get dark mentally. And what happens is you get faced with, what are you going to do when it really gets dark? You're going to pull through or you're going to quit. And when you walk through darkness and get through that very uncomfortable time, because I've finished multiple 100-mile races. When you're done, and then you're in reality, in real life, when life throws you a curveball, mm-hmm. You're like, I got this. This is nothing. Mm-hmm. So when everybody else might be panicking and freaking out, you're like, hey, dude, we got this. Take a breath, man. Mm-hmm. I've been here before. So I'd rather sweat during peacetime than bleed during war, mm-hmm. right? Yeah. It's like right now in Camp Pendleton, there's guys like preparing for situations so that when the situation happens, they're like, we've been preparing for that. Mm-hmm. So doing these things that I do, putting myself in these tough spots, prepares me for when life really throws me a curveball, and it builds confidence in myself.
And that's that mindset thing that we'll talk about too. I know that's one of your big things that you talk about when you're doing your videos and you're running and your stories and your reels and stuff on social media. But that's what we teach our kids here, Navy SEALs shoot back, right? If we prepare properly and life throws these things at us, you're again, that panic mode, like, oh my God, what do we do? It's like, if you condition yourself through endurance and these types of things, that when it does hit the fan again, it's just routine at that point, right? Like you and plus you're building confidence, so you know that you can handle it. So, but I believe that's it's just how you prepare your mindset, right? And I like what you said, was that you'd rather sweat during peace, right? Meaning you're doing what you proper preparing yourself, so that way you're not just out there dying in the war, right?
Yeah, you sweat during peacetime so you don't bleed during war. And mindset is thrown around so much. And if you look up mindset in the dictionary or on Google, you're going to see like 25 different explanations. My simple explanation is mindset is the story that I'm telling myself to myself about myself. And nobody ever taught me that growing up. Like, I am living in the story I'm telling myself. What is that story? And is the story true? Part of my coaching is in lifted coaching, right? It's mindset coaching, which that is their definition. What's the story? What's the story I'm telling myself? No one told me. I was like, hey, you're living 100% of the feeling of your own thinking. Is that story true? I was telling myself a limiting story that I'm not good enough. I don't measure up. I got the wrong parents. I'm in the wrong town. And it was all crap. It was all crap.
Yep. You know, saying again, with going just to the church, because when I do get into it with them about mindset, and that part is like, sometimes they be singing stuff and they'll be chiming to us like, we're not worthy. And I'm like, if you tell somebody that felt like they weren't worthy a long time to still say I'm not worthy, I don't know if I don't particularly agree with that, like, self-talk is important. The tongue is sharper, like the sharpest sword, and how it could carve up other people. But if you're carving yourself up, you're doing so much damage, right? Through self-talk and what you're telling yourself. So to tell yourself you're not unworthy, I just don't really follow that philosophy, man,
So absolutely.
Because if I've been telling myself that growing up as a fat foster kid and all these other things, right? Last thing I want to do is continue to tell myself, here's my telling a kid here yesterday, if a $20 bill is in the gutter and water's running over it and there's a rock holding it down, maybe even a piece of poop or whatever, right? How much is that $20 bill worth?
$20.
Still $20, right? If it's bundled up and it's right. So to say you're unworthy or not useful or stuff like that, like to feel that about yourself, like I'm not, you are that, right? And if you're a little wet and broken and damaged, whatever, but you're still valuable, you're still worthy. So so you to tell people that make them chant they're not worthy, we're not worthy, like. Because
I think you think about words. Like, I believe words matter. Words create matter. Mm-hmm. If you told yourself this little guppy, your business, this is impossible, then it's impossible. Right. Because if you don't believe it's possible by the words you're using, it will never be possible. So when I think of, if I tell somebody, hey, do you know what a spell is? They think of witches. Yeah. And I'm like, no, a spell is a word or a collection of words with great influence. And we are spelling on ourselves and other people all the time. Yeah. I told myself for a long time, I'm not good at math. Guess what? I'm not good at math. Because I told myself I'm not good at math.
Because I used to say, I'm not good at reading. So I can't be a teacher. I can't be an educator. I got 6 workbooks now.
Absolutely.
Because I would tell I went to continuation high school. So that means I'm illiterate. And I have inferiority complex.
You will never be anything you don't believe yourself capable of believing. The power of belief is everything.
Right. So right here, that's what we have at our Guppy Center, is that part. You know what the logo means for my real anglers? That worm, what catching the fish means? Mm-mm. Yeah, anything is possible. Nothing's impossible, because normally the fish eats the worm. So if you got a worm catching a fish, that means anything is possible.
Love it. I've never knew
that's the symbolism behind the worm catching the fish. Nothing's impossible. And then I drew that doodle on a Wendy's napkin with the concept of that idea, and then my tattoo artist put my muscles and my crazy face in there to give it some of my
features. Which is a story.
Right, story.
You change the story. Mm-hmm. The power of belief. It only works if you believe it can. Same with
somebody's, you look sick. Something wrong with you? You're like, I do feel sick. Oh my God, I'm sick. Or if you look up, I coughed, and you Google, I'm coughing, like, I might have those things.
And then you get it.
Right.
So if you're like, if you get around someone that is sick and you say, man, I sure hope I don't get sick.
Right.
Wow, I think I'm getting a sore throat. Right. By Friday, you're already calling out sick to work. And guess what? You got sick.
Yeah.
Same with the placebo effect.
Yeah.
They give people medication, say, here's your cure. They believe it's their cure. Their depression is cured. Oh, by the way, we gave you a sugar pill. Yeah. What? It had nothing to do with the pill. It had everything to do with you believe that was the solution.
That's what so even with the mind thing, we talk about it. I read this book numerous times, Think and Grow Rich. And that's where they really talked about the subconscious mind. And we don't talk a lot about what we think of subconsciously, right? That gives us those inferiority complexes, or again, why we believe what we believe. And if you could look at the subconscious, why is this getting to me? Well, what is it affecting? What is the power it's holding? Like you said, the spell, right? What is the power this thing is holding over me? Because of I've been subconsciously feeding myself that, right? And to look at that, so that way, as we start to talk about mental strength, that you could start to compare that, so you could catch yourself and say, oh yeah, you're falling into some old thinking habit or same old habit, right? Because subconsciously, that's how you've been doing it for so long, right?
Well, interesting thing is Dr. Joe Dispenza.
Let me get you to get in here and listen to make sure we got you in
Joe
there.
Dispenza, Bruce Lipton, they talk about the conscious and the subconscious mind. So 95% of the time we're running off subconscious. We're not even paying. You're driving the car down the road. You're next thing you know, you're in freaking Newbury Park going, how did I get here? Well, who was driving the car? Your subconscious mind. 5% of the time we're conscious of what we're doing. What is our subconscious mind? All the things up until about 7 or 8 years old that we were taught by people we respected, our parents, our teachers, the news. Holy crap. I'm programmed. I got to change the program. How do you do that? Meditation, affirmations, book, repetitive. I got to rewire and fire different thoughts.
Yeah, the firing. So I read the book, again, another one. Or not, again, since I do struggle with reading, I do get the book, do audio, right? Because that way I don't misinterpret. And then if I do get stuck on a word, I actually Google it now. So thank God for Google for all of it, whatever you need it for, right? Electronics. But and I think one of the things that helped me with that too was when I had to read the big book and I get stuck on a word or something, and I would have to. That's when because I don't want to miss the whole paragraph because I missed a word, so I would start looking up words. But the book, The Body Keeps Score, and it talks about the wiring of the brain and the receptacles and the thing which you wired your brain. If I've been listening to, believing that females ain't nothing but just something to kick it with, right? And then when I try to get into a relationship where I want to be a sweetheart, and some of my brain is telling me that's a sucker move, and my heart's saying, no, you're just being a sweetheart. And you have these two, something I've already ingrained in my brain for years. What's a sucker versus what's just a cool romantic dude, and they're arguing, and I'm having these real serious debates. That's because I've wired my brain to already to say that that's not something that that's not what men do, right? Those are, so just as one aspect, but when I read that book, it made me analyze that even more of my subconsciousness to see why, again, I have behavior patterns the way they are from where they started.
So Wayne Dyer has a statement that says, you don't believe what you see. You see what you believe. So when you change how you believe, the things that you see change. If you continue to say, this job sucks, when you go to that job, that's all you see is everything horrible about it, because that's what you've told yourself. But if you say, hey, wait a minute, not everything about it bad, everything about this job is bad, there's some good, all of a sudden you see good. Your mind brings to life what you want to see. If I told you, hey, Kevin, today, when you leave here, you're going to see red balloons. I guarantee you're going to see a red balloon. If you're looking for a little red Mustang to purchase, what are you going to start seeing all over the neighborhood? Red Mustangs. Were they there?
That's true.
Were they there before?
I wanted a white Chevy. We had this Real Angler logo on a white Chevy, and I wanted to go buy a Chevy truck. I swear, I noticed every white Chevy at a stoplight. You come like a 4-way stop or something, but that's true. I was looking at every white truck, thinking, okay, mine would have that logo on it here and stuff like that. And I looked at those white it took a couple months worth of looking. I noticed every white truck.
I love that you're talking about reading books, because prior to, let's say, 2019, I couldn't tell you when's the last book I read. All of a sudden, I said, you know what, I'm going to read a book. So all leaders are readers. Yeah. Not all readers are leaders, but I guarantee you any great leader that you respect is a reader. I've just started consuming books. One of the first books I read is The 4 Agreements. An amazing book by Don Miguel Ruiz.
Notes.
Right?
4 Agreements?
The 4 Agreements. First agreement, be impeccable with your word. Second, don't make any assumptions. Third, don't take anything personal.
I'm working on that one.
And fourth, always do your best. And then there's just book after book after book, So
I'm gonna let you keep talking. I want to, because everything you're saying, I've developed through that, and again doing that inventory of what do I take personally as a business person now, right? Like you're gonna, you really have to subtract your emotions from personal and business, as an entrepreneur, And when you've been against subconsciously always defensive and defending yourself, anytime you think you're getting scrutinized, the first thing you do is get defensive and want to get confrontational. And that's where I come from. Confrontation is how we settle everything. I'm bigger than you,
No, I hear you. Well, and men.
Sorry, don't mean to. I giggle at these things just because I giggle at them because, again, in the biblical thing is when you start to see those things that are childish, because you started at 8 years old fighting for your life, and you go back like, man, those are some immature.
Me raising my voice shows my lack of the ability to communicate properly, especially with a man and a woman,
Mm-hmm.
or a man and anybody. So when we're not getting our way, we get bigger and we get louder, because you know what? You're going to shut up and you're going to listen. And the victor only seems to win. That was my lack of being able to communicate. If I did that to a female, I didn't win. She's afraid of me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, that's a horrible way to communicate.
Yep. Exactly. And I think, again, if you look at child, like when kids get mad and can't control their emotions when they throw a tantrum. So you'd be a grown ass, to my language, man. They call it a mantrum, you know? I'm just a grown man throwing a mantrum, you know, because I just want my way, and the louder I get, the more. And then as I started to learn that too, when I start being more changing and started being more understanding, like even at a register, right? Oh, take your time. You know what I mean? Like, there's no reason to get mad. I don't want to, you're doing the best you can, versus intimidating to get my way. And you're going to fix this problem right now. You become with soft and empathy for that. Next thing you know, they give you a discount or walk you through it, because everybody normally, not everybody, I don't like to use that big word, but a majority of people, that's what they think. I could be offensive and get my way. And when you back out of that and be like more understanding and empathetic, man, that goes a long way. But I used to be on the other side, right? Oh, I'm gonna intimidate my way through this.
Well, it's interesting. It just, what came to my mind is something I wrote about the other day, is like, how long am I going to be a slave to my reaction to things and become a master of my response? So when I'm faced with conflict, if I react, I'm not even thinking first. I'm just coming from my ego. Like, I have to defend myself, like it matters.
Just taking more notes.
But the fact is, if I can pause, take a breath, I'm going to respond. If I'm responding, I'm coming from a soul-centered being, right? They say God is in the pause. Whatever you believe in is in that pause. I don't need to react. There's nothing to defend. You know what I mean? I don't want to respond from a loving spot. I make a lot less amends that way.
So before we get to this last one, I'm just going to agree with that. I remember how I started to look at it was like, what does Warren Buffett let offend him, right? If I'm trying to model myself over successful, I don't know Warren Buffett from here or there, but I'm sure the decisions he has to make day in and day out of where he's at, what he doesn't find as minor for him to really get reactive to, right? And how does he do that? And I forgot what the second one was, because I think I'd rather talk to you more about Cornerman coaching and the active recover. But yeah, there was something about just how am I approaching those things, and what am I letting get to me, and why? I know they use the word triggered a lot, but yeah, understanding like why my emotions so. And one of my managers at Orkin, Terminex, used to came back in your emotions. I what are you talking about, man? But then when I started like, what the hell does that mean? I'm not even supposed to have emotions. I'm a tough guy, right? So like reanalyze on like,
no, that's
that's what I was gonna say. Bruce Lee, that was the second thing. Bruce Lee would say, once you lose your, even I think fighters, right? Again, with that mentality, when you lose when you lose it in there is when you forget your fundamentals, and that's when you lose the fight normally, because now you're just throwing punches, right? You forgot your technique, all that, because you let that one punch in the face like throw you off. Now you're just swinging wildly versus just, wait a minute, recenter. Remember everything you've learned. The fight ain't over, So that was the second one, was the Bruce Lee fact of once you lose your emotions and get crazy, you've lost.
Yeah, and to say, I'm not supposed to be emotion. Emotions are energy in motion, man. So, and men are, I don't think I'm supposed to have emotions. Like, that's like shutting off half of your.
Well, we have a term for it, something that this filter that I've put up recently, as I continue to go, especially working with staff and stuff like that, and seeing when I want my way, or what, as a servant leader, and asking myself, again, where's that rooted at? This ego, where does it come from that makes me behave that way, and going back into it? Man, there's so much going through my brain about this topic right now that we're doing. It's just like,
and me too, because
here's what I'll say.
Me, when I'm defensive and when I'm angry, it shows me where I'm not free. Right. It has nothing to do with Kevin. Kevin you can't make me mad. I make me mad. Right. And if I continue to get mad over this, it's just going to keep showing me where my work is needing to be done. And if I don't learn how to get through it or deal with it, the universe, whatever it's going to keep giving me this lesson. Like, man, I'm here again. It's like, I want to get to the next level. Well, cool. You got to solve this problem first.
So when you say that the how men are, we're going to talk, because I know where you work with the men, and I'll be quiet after this, I promise. I think is we call it the G code. So that's the factor of the filter that I'm always looking at, right? Am I letting that pass the G code? You know, there's certain things you're not, again, your emotions and what you ball up and what you keep inside, and letting that go. So I guess I'm changing the G code from the gangster code to maybe the God code, right? Again, what's more righteous and from the heart versus this other Kevin and my wiring of the G code, right? Again, back to my relationships on females, being a sweetheart, right? There's this G code that I've dialed myself into that I'm trying to reverse, you know, and then comparing that to that. Yeah. So you're letting that's the wolf you're feeding right now. And you need to those are things you need to let go, because it's kind of childish, man. Again, you're throwing a fit. And when you start looking at it like that, then it's easy for you to say, yeah, that is kind of an immature pattern.
There's a quote that I use, or a saying. Does the man I aspire to be do this?
Well, that's what I mean, like the Warren Buffett, right? So if I'm trying to be a successful entrepreneur or millionaire, again, the man that I'm, again, not him himself, but to be wealthy and taking care of my family and my legacy, would he be doing
it's
this?
The same way with diet.
It's the
same way with diet. You want to lose 5 pounds, 10 pounds. Does the person I want to be eat like this?
Yeah.
Oh, it's that pause. Once again, like, oh, probably not.
Not every day.
Right?
I want a chili dog once in a while.
Well, hey, everybody deserves a treat.
So tell us about Cornerman coaching. We got about 15 minutes more, so we give us a little bit of time. Which one do you want to dive into, Cornerman coaching or the active recovery?
Well, I'd like to start with Cornerman coaching, because as a person that's worked with people in recovery, you know, for the last 36 years, I've been coaching, but I was like, there's so much more than just being sober.
Mm-hmm.
So when I found this active part of me in the running, I decided, hey, you know what? I want to help people get physically stronger. So I became a personal, I went and got National Academy of Sports Medicine certified. I'm going to be a personal trainer. And then I realized, well, wait a minute. It's not all about just training. It's mindset. So then I got a lot of certifications on mindset. So holistic coaching. So because how you eat, sleep, move, and think is a whole person, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, okay, great. You went to the gym. What did you do with the other 23 hours of the day? You sat around, you did nothing, you ate ding dongs, whatever you did. So Cornerman coaching came out of, man, I want to help men, and I coach women too, thrive in all areas of their life. Because if you're not eating good, you're not sleeping good. If you're not sleeping good, you're not eating good. You're not working out. They're all connected.
Look what I text my coach right here. I rested well. I feel fit. Where's it at? Oh yeah, I got good rest. I got good fuel. All good. That's what I texted him this morning. I slept good last night. I was out, we're training the same way because I want to keep moving and hustle and working, right? And he's like, Kevin, you still need to rest some. Sure. And as much as you're eating, it's good, healthy food. Last night I felt strong at the gym, eating rice. But anyway, I'm just agreeing with you. Exactly what I texted my coach this morning at 9:00. I got good rest.
Love it.
I got good fuel. It's all good.
And that's what so I help people transform their lives.
Yes, you do.
And it takes two things: a change in beliefs and a change in behaviors. If you change your beliefs around anything, food, sleep, your behavior is going to change. And then transformation happens. What's transformation? We're bringing something to life that does not currently exist. Mm-hmm. I don't tell people what to do. I don't even like to call myself a coach. I'm a guide. I'm just guiding people through the waters. Hence where we're at right now. So that's a pretty cool analogy. I'm just guiding through tough waters, man. Yeah. And what makes you feel good? Because if I give you Bill's plan, that's Bill's plan. I help people find out what's enjoyable for them. Because if their goal ain't attainable, enjoyable, it's not going to be sustainable, right? Attainable, sustainable, enjoyable.
And all of our goals are, and when you're working with that, that's a one-on-one part that you get to come to those. When I was a certified trainer, let me ask you this: we have this. I used to draw this little diagram. You can't see it. Like, this is why you really you want to lose 10 pounds. And then here's another layer. Like, as you work with them, you really get to find that goal, right? When I find out it was that little guy inside that was chubby back then, 10 pounds, right? Like, as you work with them, you get to, they kind of trust you with more of their real inside goals, so that when you're making their program and when you're focusing on that strengthening, you really get to kind of dig deeper inside of what's the heart of it. Maybe somebody at the office made a joke about them. Oh, so-and-so is in the front of the line again, of course, or something like that. And it really stung me inside. But when they come to you and say, hey, I want to do some training, like, you finally get to that point of them kind of confessing.
There's some psychology too. It's like, why do you want to lose 10 pounds? Oh, because I'm afraid. If you're losing 10 pounds because someone else said something, It's not going to work.
Yeah.
Because people lose 10 pounds, gain 10 pounds, lose 10 pounds, gain 10. They go on a juice diet for 60 days and lose 30 pounds, and then they gain,
Is there a
70
time
pounds.
that when you work with them, because like with our program with the kids development, do you try to make like a 6 month, it's not a overnight cure, especially if somebody doing the same behavior patterns, those new beliefs and stuff to really put them into practice? Do you try to, keep an ongoing 6 months, a year working with people?
I've had clients that I've been working for a couple of years. So I have a 12-week program, but it's consistency over intensity all day long.
Yeah.
And I don't focus on aesthetics. It don't work. If you're just focused on getting a six-pack, it's not the right. If you chase health, aesthetics will follow. But if you chase aesthetics, health doesn't always follow. Some of the biggest bodybuilders, they're in the worst shape of their life. They're almost dead when they're on stage, but they look badass, right? But if you chase health, being healthy, is this healthy? Your aesthetics will follow that.
Let's make that today's word, chase health. And that could be healthy relationships. That could be in all aspects, right? So it's not just your fitness. It could be your healthy walk with your spirituality, right? Like you want to look for, you're chasing health in all those components. And when one's suffering or doesn't get the attention, because you might be focusing on another part of that's the more important, but as you start to get those consistent victories, those wins, those confidences, then it all starts to orbit around each other, Do you think of that idea?
I think, like I said, everything's connected. Yeah, chase healthy relationships, chase good sleep, chase good nutrition. All of that's connected.
Your habits would just start to form in all aspects of just, is this really healthy?
And have some freaking fun. Yeah. I don't tell people they can't have anything. I ask them to ask themselves a question. Does the person I want to do or be do this?
Yeah.
Trust me, if you're going to Thanksgiving dinner and you're not having some of mom's special sweet, potato, whatever, you're going to regret that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Go have some fun.
Yeah. And when you're staying healthy,
it's 80-20.
And when you're healthy, again, it's a lot of maintenance. It's just a lot of maintenance, So if you do it, you're not going to have, it's not going to hit your hips like somebody that's just stockpiling it on, right? So if you do have a day when, like Super Bowl, I told my coach, look, man, I'm giving up today. Like I'm going to eat some Doritos and some bean dip, and it was just for a day, right?
Absolutely.
And but since I have these plans in place of what my goal is, the Kevin I want to be, I still didn't super overindulge, but I enjoyed it. I enjoyed enough of it to
Life
get me
is
through.
meant to be enjoyed, and when we eat, that's community. It's like no man is ever going to be on his deathbed and go, "Man, I'm glad when I went to Italy, I stayed on my meal plan."
Right?
He's going to go, "Oh my God, I can't believe I went to Italy and didn't have some of that authentic stuff." Dude, enjoy yourself. I tell people I love cake. When I go to a birthday party, I'm having a piece of cake. I just don't eat the whole cake.
Hey,
have a piece
moderation.
of freaking cake.
Yeah,
absolutely. If I'm going to a pizza party or Super Bowl party, I'm having pizza.
Yeah,
just not going to eat the whole freaking pizza.
I
enjoy the food.
And those are like, so this is Cornerman coaching. Is that online where they could find information about you?
That's my Instagram handle.
And is that just for? I know we talked about it. I know females have a lot of support where men hold more stuff, and we have a Tuesday group here where men come in and we have the support. Or most of your clients, I know that there's some that's near and dear to your heart to making sure that fellas are looking out for fellas too, right?
I coach primarily men, but I'm currently coaching a group of women also.
Yeah. That's good because
we're all human beings.
We're all humans. But I just feel like fellas, again, from those older eras of being tough guys and that hunter-gatherer aspect of it, where we could confess now to one another, again, that's some of the biblical women confess to one another. There is something empowering or letting that bondage go by sharing that. And fellas, sometimes we don't have nowhere to do that, or we don't think, again, the G code prevents me from saying what I'm really going through. And that's what something you want to, that's near and dear to you.
I create that. So in I coach one-on-one, but I also do group coaching, and we create a safe environment. Because how sad is it that we know people that seem to have it all, but took their own life because they had no one to talk to. They didn't want to be weak. They were taught that, emotions are weakness, the G code, whatever you want to call it. Mental health, physical health. I just had an experience with my freaking prostate. I'm freaking 58 years old. Men don't talk about that. When they talk about prostate exams, like, not me.
Yeah.
It's funny. Women, they talk about all that stuff. When's the last time you had your test and your breast exam? Men, it's like, I got friends right now Dad, they didn't get a great result from that test. So any men that are listening to this, go get freaking checked.
I got
man.
I got a blood test tomorrow.
Prostate exam. My dad died of colon cancer. These are things that could be prevented, and we don't talk about them. I want to bring that to the forefront, that we need to be talking about this stuff. I want to be talking about men about, I'm feeling a little weak.
It kind of just as, with the same openness that we would talk about, Super Bowl just ended up, right? Like where it's not, that you feel you could comfortably talk about these things and it's not taboo, right?
Oh, we know who won the Super Bowl, but when's the last time you had a physical exam? It's like, we don't talk about that. Like I said, the opposite of women talk about all of that. And that's where this active recovery comes into place. Because, people are recovering. Everybody's recovering from something.
Yeah.
So active recovery is a community. We're building a community where people can get together and talk. And we don't just sit in a room, because when you sit in a room, people don't talk much. Get them outside, walking.
What does that feel like for some individuals that just isolate too, like that sit in the room and sit in the house and isolate, they're healing, but they like to isolate.
It's quite possible they don't know that they think that they're unique or no one else. So we're bringing light, like, hey, you're not so other people. I lost a granddaughter, 7 months old. She passed away in her crib. Like I want to turn that mess into a message. That was drastic, but
that's real drastic.
No other people, everybody's recovering from something, cancer, lost their husband, whatever. Yeah, primarily I'm going to focus on the recovery from drugs and alcohol because that's my jam. But I'm bringing other people that lost their son to fentanyl, whatever, like all of these things. I want to gather and get people. I'm way too excited about it because
I'm going to give you an example, right? So part of this part for me is like when my mom died 2 years ago, like I don't know how to mourn. I don't mourn. Never mourned. My dad died when I was 6, right? So if I did have a breakup or something, like part of that's something that's ingrained in me where I gotta. Did you ever cry for your mom, man? Like I can't. It's emotional, right? So the part of that is some people need to find a place to, maybe not a pity party, but be able to release that, mourn versus just stuffing it down inside, I didn't even know how to mourn and say,
Kevin, the fact that you had, sorry to interrupt you, the fact that you've had that experience and now you have this impact on children, say, hey, I'd been this way for 40 freaking years. You're now teaching these kids like, hey, don't hold that stuff in. Yeah. Let's talk about it.
Oh, yeah.
We want to make it normal for boys to talk about their feelings. Girls talk about them all day. Men are like, no, man. You ain't got, what are you,
here's something for you guys though to listen to, right? So, because when I was that way, me and my kids talk about this now and something experienced in a relationship is that is my worldview on things, is that I could put that on my kid too, though, right? Like we used to say, do you need medical attention or are you dying? Because we don't cry in this house. So I could teach my girls to have that same unempathetic side, or that they have, because that's what we don't cry in this house. You need a reason to cry, where it's like even as men, but as fathers, we could still bring that into our household to our sons and our daughters and our wives to be like, we just got to tough it out. We bend, we don't break, like that over. And I've done that, in my own household, because I'll bring the G code and put that on my next generation. So if you're listening to this and you have that inside of you that you haven't worked on, you could be putting that on, so that's part of the cycle of them, is not allowing your own household to grieve or mourn or to show feelings, because I turn those off, right? And now my kids are going to inherit that cold-heartedness because I'm teaching it to them.
What's interesting is part of that is not bad. I want my son to be tough, and hey, like, life's not always going to be roses, dude. But yet keep that in reason and still be able to share. Yeah. My dad was born in 1928. He forged his birth certificate to go into World War II.
So my grandpa did.
I never saw my dad cry, ever. I never saw him call out sick. I never was, homeless. We always had a home. But in my mind, my dad was a turd, man. Because he never took me fishing, he never took me camping, and all I saw in my dad was this one-sided thing until somebody said, hey, can you write down 5 positive things about your dad? No one ever asked me that. I wrote down 5 positive things about my father. It clicked like, whoa. I didn't see what I believe, or I didn't believe what I saw. I saw what I believed. I believed my dad was a certain way until someone had me write those things down, and all of a sudden I saw my dad in a whole new light. Toughest son of a bitch I ever met. Stoic, lost a son. All of these things. Never saw him cry. He just handled his shit.
Yeah.
He taught me great, valuable lessons. Yeah. Not all one way. I don't want to be all like my dad. Yeah. And I don't want to be all this other way. It's a balance of everything.
Yeah. That part.
Yeah, man.
All right, well, I think we're at our 45 minutes, man. So we have to call you back in about 6 months to do another round of this and find out what happened. So when is your ultra run?
April 12th. It's called the Leona Divide. It starts in Green Valley. It's on the Pacific Crest Trail, man. So it'll take me about 30 hours to complete.
Yeah. We got our own personal. It's funny. I've read David Goggins' book like 6 times, you know. That helped out a lot too, because he talks about being the only and stuff like that. But ultra running, and that's where I heard about it and him overcoming a lot of stuff mindset. But to me, you're like my own personal, your own way, David Goggins for people, you know?
It's never too late, man. I didn't start running and doing this till I was 45 years old. I'm crazy to say this. I'll be 60 years old next year. I'm in the best physical, mental, spiritual shape of my life. It is never too late.
I'm trying to get there.
Begin.
Honestly, and again, seeing men like you, and again, this is for fellas, man. Men, like, we gotta tell other men that, you know, give them their flowers, and I do. And here's one thing where I've transformed it into personal and emotional like this is I'm very open about that for people that have shaped me, developed me business and entrepreneurial wise. Like, hey, you're a branch manager, like my friend Armando, right? Like watching you with a house and a family and doing everything that way. And again, in your men, because a lot of right now, and females are running a lot of business. So there's only a few of us at some of these entrepreneurial meetings or these counselor summits where there's only a few men. So I'll gravitate towards the hierarchy men just so I have to have somebody in the business kind of realm, you know what I mean? But taking that same pursuit of business development into Kevin's personal development, because business is going to help me transform personally, right? I mean, personal development, because again, I'm over people and I can't make these types of jokes in the office no more because we're, you know what I mean? People are leaving their children with me and I got to be professional all the time. But how do I want to still be the best father and husband and other things, not just, you know, built an entrepreneurial spirit. But point to that is how I'm okay with gravitating to that, no problem. And going to every business meeting that I can to try to, you know, to get that. And then saying, well, if that worked over here in this part of your life, Kev, imagine if you were to, you know, hang out with men. That's why you started our own men's group here on Tuesday, so that we can start gravitating towards one another to get that fulfillment, to bounce it off.
I just keep thinking, you know, when I think of women, there's some women, awesome women entrepreneurs, first of all, for sure. And one of the toughest ultra runners I know is a female. Her name is Courtney Del Walter. So she ran the Moab 240. She beat the closest man by freaking 10 hours.
Wow.
10 hours. She beat the closest person. She could have went to the hotel room after the race, slept for 8 hours, came back with pizza to meet the second place guy. Women are tough, man. They deliver children, for God's sake.
They're tough.
You know what I mean? So
that's why I think they're tough enough to talk about things that we won't talk about. See what I'm saying? Like what we might modify as what's tough, knocking somebody out, you know, or having a bunch of girls you can call on, is what we think we might look at like you say, you look up mindset and there's 25 definitions. Yeah. Same with tough, man. Are you tough enough to not punch somebody when it gets loud? Are you tough enough to
to walk away?
Right.
That's tough.
But you got a G code telling you absolutely not. I'm a punk if I do. Anyway, let's save some stuff for next time. Right. But thanks, man. And again, I appreciate the work you're doing, man. I love following you. Thank you for listening and taking my calls when I was at that place of I needed somebody again to go to confess to a man and say, hey, you know, I'm struggling, you know, and some of the things that you know, and you giving me that time. So you're part of where I'm at.
Cool.
You know, I'm a disciple of yours, and I put that word down because I know we talk about mentorships, you know, sponsors in the program, development, guidance, counselor. When you say you call yourself a coach, it's very important that fellas look for those things too and not hold it all in, you know?
Yeah. Everybody needs a guide, man. That's what Cornerman. Everybody wants a man in their corner, man. When life throws you a left curve, you know.
You got yourself a Mickey. You got Mickey in the corner.
Let me be your Mickey, man. I'm just gonna pick you up, man. Everybody wants someone in their corner, man. That's where Cornerman coaching came from, man.
100%.
I got your back.
Hell yeah. Thank you, man. All right. Well, thank you very much.
You got it, brother.
Yeah, brother. All right. So check it out and we'll follow it out again. Cornerman Coaching on Instagram and active Active Recovery on Instagram as well. Bill Matthews is our runner. And what is this? What is that? The email?
Oh, that's just my email, spiritualbill@gmail.
Spiritualbill@gmail. All right. Like I said, I don't read very well. So anyway, Barry, you take us out of here?
Stop telling yourself that.
Oh, okay. Barry, say goodbye. Let's go.
Today's guest, Bill Matthews, Cornerman Coaching and the Active Recovery. Brought to you by AftCo Fishing Apparel and Tackle, designed to perform. Channel Islands Sport Fishing, offering deep-sea fishing on quality sport fishing charter boats, and more. Costa Sunglasses. Discover life's greatest adventures with Costa. See what's out there. Daiwa. If you want innovation and quality in your fishing products, Daiwa has what you need. This has been a Rough Edge Studios production.